What's up, everybody? Matt Kelly here, part of Good Problems Collective. We out here in Pompano Beach, Florida, Broward County, South Florida. That's where we're at right now. That's where I've lived for a couple years. That's where I grew up my whole life, pretty much. For the past 4 years, I've been in San Francisco, Oakland, Bay Area. We went west with it, and I moved back last year in October. So it's been a year since I've been back. You know, learned a lot out there. Met a lot of great people. You know what I'm saying? Met one of my associates, my partner in business, Mr. Cold Medina. We formed Good Problems Collectives out there. I met my wife. You know, we brought it back down here. Living by the water now, so life is pretty good. It's funny because I moved to California because a homie of mine moved to California a year before me, and a homie of his moved 2 years before that. So it was this kind of domino effect. And then through my homies that they were the reason why I moved out there. And when I met them, you know, up there, they were doing their own thing, and they were meeting people who were kind of in the music scene in Oakland. And I met a good friend who, you know, someone I call a good friend now, by the name of Guled. Amazing person, great guy, Leo like myself. So we bonded real quickly. He was really big into the tech space and the music space, and that's pretty much the sum of San Francisco. It's the hub of tech, art, creation, and everything, and just kind of the fusion of it all together, right? So my first event there was hosted by Guled, and it was in this Google office where it was glass ceilings and there was plants inside, and it was my first time performing this project that I had worked on for a really long time. So for me personally, it was this big deal internally. And long story short, bro, Medina happened to be on that show as well. So that's how we met, because he happened to, you know, stay there, and he was performing. He listened to my stuff, I listened to his stuff, and we fucked with each other. So we started talking afterwards, just yo, good set, whatever. Long story short, bro, we're outside smoking a blunt, me, him, and my two homies from Florida, and we realized that every single person in this circle smoking a blunt, we're all from Florida. Medina has ties in Florida. He lived there for a long time. His wife is from Florida as well. So it was just this huge connection, and Medina just started coming over, and then we had this bond over music, of course, and then in full circle, I show him these beats that somebody else didn't fuck with, and we turned that into an album, which has been a 3-year process at this point. We started making this album with rough drafts in my kitchen. You know, those foldable tables that are this size, the black ones, and you fold them like that, and you carry it like this. So we opened it a bit like this, and we put that shit on my kitchen counter, and that was our studio and my little performance mic. And that was the rough drafts, and we knew that we were gonna make something great with this, because we understood from the beginning that with the equipment that we're using, and with kind of that mindset in the beginning, we didn't have everything figured out. You know, we're at that time, we're on the verge of turning 30, and we still don't have the shit figured out, right? So it's damn, we have to really rethink this, and if we want to do it properly, which is independently, you know, these days, right? It's a whole other story. So we wanted to do it properly, so we kind of formed Good Problems as a collective to be able to turn this release of an album into a process of getting everything together, so that for the next step it would be a lot easier, right? You know, my collective is Good Problems Collective. Is myself and Cold Medina. He raps, I make the beats. So that's pretty much how Good Problems Collective was formed, through kind of a movement for our music, and that's the collective. And then we were just spending so much money on everything that we decided to make an actual company about it, so we could write off the taxes and whatnot. But it's been a great experience. We started back in 2019, and kind of introduced him to these beats that I had made for somebody else, and that somebody else wasn't really receiving the beats as well as I thought he would. you know, we had a bond based on one beat, but like everything after that I sent to him, he didn't receive it the same way that he did with the first beat. So it was a little bit of a letdown for me, and that's a huge lesson is like being a producer, is that like you are not going to be able to make music with everybody that you link up with, and like just because one person doesn't like your particular music, I mean, there's somebody next door it's gonna be perfect for them. So that's the exact situation that happened with Medina. We used like this movement of Good Problems to kind of push this forward, and like it's just been a journey ever since, bro. And like I said, we started this in 2019, and our album dropped May 21st of 2021. And like I keep saying, we wanted to do it the right way, and I genuinely felt like the only way to do it correctly was to, if we couldn't do a tour, at least do a show with it, you know, a performance, like a party, a release excuse me, a release party. So we happened to be able to get Medina to come down for the show, and we hosted it with Respect the Vibe, with my boys Intimate out in West Palm doing their thing with like house music, underground shit. We did it at Respectable Street in West Palm Beach, which was a pretty decent sized venue. It was a great turnout, like really great support from everybody. And you know, recently, like since then, like I've just had my mind on like setting more events and like going to like shopping out to like different venues and whatnot, because I just love creating like an environment where like I can bring creatives together. I feel like that really benefits everybody like involved, whether it's like the people performing or the people going, because they could just perform the next time around. But the music scene specifically is a lot bigger and better and exciting than what I remember from what I left back in 2018. You know, people like Respect the Vibe. You know, you have like a lot of different entities. Shout out 90 Culture. You have this group of people, Soul Fam out in West Palm, just making moves too. So respect to everybody making those moves. And since I've been back, it's been great to kind of collab with these people, because like part of like this music stuff is delegation and like networking and meeting with people that like can do things that you cannot, right? So you can like build something greater than just yourself. But it turns out that like not, you know, you can't just work with anybody, right? So like, at least in my experience, like and I'm very hands-on with it as well. So like in my eyes, I would rather have like an in-house graphic designer, an in-house engineer, like an in-house promoter, what have you. You know what I'm saying? Our own venues, so we could do whatever we want. And another thing, bro, like is I've been doing. So first and foremost, like I'm a producer. I'd say like at this moment, that's what I do from like a music perspective. I use Ableton. I'm very catered to Ableton. Like I'm very like loyal to it, I guess you could say. I've been doing Ableton and like production, and I started off with like electronic music, and then I got into hip hop like through Blase Blah. But I've been doing production since about 2013, excuse me. And before that, I was playing guitar in like bands and shit. And my first like music, my first love was like, well, first of all, like in 6th grade, like we don't know who we are, right? So I'm listening to like Biggie, and I got the mid all white Air Forces, the poofy pants down to here. I got the shits down to here and like a blowout. You know, I'm wearing like the wristband, like 2 wristbands on top of each other to coordinate the fit. So like that was 6th grade, and then moving forward. But when I actually found like an identity, like in high school, my last day of school of sophomore year, my homie hit me up and was like, yo, my band needs a guitar player. So like I was just like, fuck it, because I just started playing maybe like a year or two ago, year and a half ago, so I was like decent at the time. So I go to this band practice where I'm like trying out, and it turns out I'm like 15 at the time, so like I'm young, I'm stupid, right? Like I don't know what's going on, I just want to play some music. Turns out everybody's 22, 23, you know, like this and that. So like everyone's mad, like way older than me. Like I'm just kind of the kid of the group. And that was like my identity for a long time, bro. Like where we would have like shows every Friday and Saturday at Solid Sound Studios. If you know, you know. You know that's gonna be on fucking Powerline and Wiles, right next to Mount Trashmore, right next to the sex toy shop, the sex shop. That was legendary for me as a kid, like going there, and like people would pay $10 and like all the bands, including my band, would be fucking shitty, horrible, terrible, but like that was the space to be. Like it was just so sick to like have like that scene. And that's what I feel like I'm really trying to get towards like now. It's like build that scene once again where, you know, it's like you don't have to like even promote something. It's just like, motherfuckers know, like you go here on Friday, you know what I mean? Like, but skipping ahead here, like because I was so young in a band when everybody else was so old, like I was it was like a 4 or 5 year thing, like, you know, like it was like a long-term commitment like towards the band. But everybody got older, like faster than me. They started having kids, they started moving away, they started like stop caring. Like my ex-bassist like works for fucking NASA, you know, like, so good for him, you feel me? Like good shit on him, good on him. So, but I was still young enough to the point where I wanted to still pursue it, right? So that's when I saw like Ableton and like production, I could be like my one-man band, and I essentially like traded in my guitar for Ableton, like, and I just switched it over and I bought an MPK 249, or the MPK 49 at the time, sorry, you know what I'm saying, 49 keys, pads, faders, knobs, just like a MIDI controller, and I was just like, what is this whole new process of making music? And it was just crazy to me because like you could create sound A and make it sound Z, you know what I'm saying? Like you could make that shit anything. But like with that like amount of options, like actually breeds like some limitations too, because there's so many options that you just get like caught up, right? So it was a lot easier to just like hop on the guitar and just like jam out, make some riffs, what have you. But like it's been a process, like, and I've definitely like, it's definitely been a journey, like a love-hate relationship for sure. But I think that's like, if you dive into anything, like the way that I dove into music and Ableton and production, like the same way in a marriage, it's like not everything's perfect, but you compromise because you want it to work, you know what I'm saying? And like you learn each other, and it's become my instrument, you know what I'm saying? Like to the point where I feel more comfortable playing that than I did playing guitar. So I'm fucking, but let me back up again. Like I'm fucking in this band, right? And I'm doing like rock, and then I start producing, and because of that transition of like instruments, like of my process of making music, my like personal taste changed as well, because I was listening to different shit for like inspiration, or like what could I make with this process, right? Because like in the box, in a DAW, on a DAW, Fruity Loops, Apple, Ableton, what have you, it's a lot more structured in the sense that you have like bars that you cater to, right? So it's, as opposed to like when you just like spitting out audio, you just like making a riff, you're not playing to a tempo, right? Like you just making it up on the spot. So it's a whole different process. And it was definitely, like I said, a love-hate relationship learning that shit. And I never thought in a million years that I would be able to incorporate what I'm doing now with what I was doing back then. So obviously, like I said, I'm a producer, but like I'm a DJ as well. That's really where I make most of my money, like in terms of like music and stuff, which is a whole other thing. It's like completely different from production. I highly recommend it because it's a low cost of entry, you know? You don't have to get the crazy stuff at first. First of all, it's a practical, for anybody who's trying to get into DJing, it's an extremely practical job. Like you work 3 to 4 hours, you get to drink on the job, you're the cool guy, you know what I'm saying? Like you can, there's no side work, you know what I mean? Like if you work at a restaurant, there's no side work rolling up. And not every gig is the most gracious, but like at least if you're on that path to like pursuing music, you still have that in your mindset so you can move to the next step. And like I guess a lot of people would wonder like, how do you become a DJ? But like like my advice, I'm not gonna give you my advice. I'm just gonna tell you my story because it's kind of weird. Like how I got into DJing. Like I said, it was this whole process of like kind of like faking it till I made it, and then I got my first venue, which was like a bar, and it was just playing like this. Like there was a certain thing to play, but I didn't want to play it. I loved house music at the time, and that was just what I wanted to like play there because it was my only gig. So I was just very interested in like bringing that to the table. I was very like stubborn about it. Like, nah, fuck that. These people don't know what they're talking about. Like, I'm the fucking DJ, right? And then like, that's just not how you go about it. Like, as a DJ, you got to know like where you're at, like from a gig standpoint. And if you're not playing the right music if you don't enjoy playing the music at the venue that you're playing it at, then you're not at the right gig, and like that's your fault. Like, don't complain to them. You know what I'm saying? Like, you fix that. You go the other route to a different venue. But I had to learn that the hard way, and I started off DJing a lot, like at restaurants, and kind of like being like this background music. Not necessarily like a party DJ, but just kind of like really setting the tone for like people, whether it was like a brunch or like a Saturday night. So like my cues to like, oh, do these people like my music, wasn't necessarily them getting up and dancing, because they're at a restaurant, they're not gonna get up and dance. So like I would just have to like watch for like the feet kind of like stomping, like, you know, or like the knee tapping or whatever. And so it was like the little like subtle like cues that I would have to pay attention to, and I think that really helped me as a DJ growing up, because I mean it's really easy to see if people like your music if they're dancing to it, right? But like from the subtle perspective, it was a long process, and I don't want to play at restaurants anymore, but like I definitely see it as like a great entrance for anybody that is gonna start DJing. The first time I ever went to a house, like a club, like where there was house music, like techno, was at Story in Miami, and it was with Marco Carolla, who's an Italian DJ. And I was kind of new to this type of music, because this is what all of my friends who were already DJs were like really involved in. And I really liked the music, but I've just never been to an event, because like they would always be like, bro, like I don't know if you're ready for this, bro. Like, this shit's different, bro. You go to Space, you go to Story, like you there all night, bro. Like you there all morning too. So it's just kind of like this whimsical, like, oh shit, like, am I ready for this? What have you? So I was like, fuck it. One night I just was like, fuck it, I'm ready. Let's bounce. Let's go. And bro, it was like one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life to this day. I've never felt like an energy like that. So obviously, like, I wanted to be a part of that, right? I wanted to like invest myself in this world of like underground house music, and like learn what they're doing, so I could be the DJ for this crowd, and, you know, just replicate this, bro. Just be a part of it. Like I said, the majority of my friends, like starting out, they were really into house music and DJing. But as I grew, like just based on the way that I grew as a DJ, I wasn't playing a lot of house parties. I was playing like soul music and disco, or I was playing 80s music, or like hip hop throwbacks, because I was playing at restaurants and bars a lot, right? So I kind of eased into those type of gigs. And like for me, like my passion in music, I love DJing, but like my passion is production. Like I enjoy creating something from the start. Like the real like, oh shit moment is when I'm DJing my music that I produced, and people are reacting to it in a positive way, or even not, like just to see what it is to people, right? That's what really gets me off as a producer. DJing, like I said, is extremely practical. When you are setting this pathway as an artist, as a musician, as a producer, as a songwriter, you are not making a lot of money with that. You're just not at first. But with DJing, you can make money with that. Like you can make a living off of DJing. And like I said, a 3 to 4 hour gig gives you a lot more time and a lot more energy afterwards as opposed to like a 10-hour double at a restaurant and you're tired as fuck and you don't want to do anything after and all you did was make money. The same thing with DJing, bro. Like, you make money, but at the same time, you are also, while you're making money, you're also having fun, but you're also like interviewing for your next job. Every fucking gig is also an interview for the next job, because there's somebody in the crowd like, oh shit, I fuck with him or her. So DJing, I love it. I've grown to really like respect it. I personally am just now getting on CDJs, like where I feel comfortable to like play them at shows. So it's kind of like this new venture for me, and I love it. But all in all, like, I DJ to make money and for a better life, like for a better quality of life. Cause like, if you're the DJ, you're not just some random dude. Like, you're not the server, you're not the busboy. Like, you're the guy playing the music. And not even like to stroke my ego or whatever, but just from like a quality of life type perspective. Like, you leave, if you had a good set and people fuck with you, you feel good. You feel nice after, you know? And like, then you get residual value from that when people try to pick you up for their shows. And you know, that's why you have to have business cards. But I love DJing. I started off like, when I started off as a DJ, I thought it was like kind of cliche to just become a DJ. So at the very least, I wanted to like represent myself like in a unique way. So instead of like playing on CDJs or like on like a little mixer with like little turntables, crossfade, I decided to make my first instrument, the MPK 49. It's a MIDI controller, and I just like mapped it out to work with my DJ software, which was Tractor. So it was cool because it looked cool, and people would always be like, what the fuck, like shock factor, but it had a lot of limitations as well. It's great to be unique and be original, but there's also like certain guidelines, at least within DJing, because there's like, so everything is so universal, that you have to kind of like, you know, learn to go to that school for it, right? Like to kind of like take note of what's happening. Obviously you want to add your own flair, but yeah, man, I mean, like a lot of mistakes. I've made a lot of mistakes, but because of those mistakes, like I've grown from them and I've become like a way better DJ in my opinion. Like, don't really get, you know what I'm saying, complaints. So like, definitely having more fun with it now that I'm more comfortable, and just kind of exploring like a way to make music and make money at the same time. Which is like a huge thing. Like, you gotta make money in this shit, bro, because this shit is like a money hole. Like, you spend money on it, and like we expect like these like percentages of a penny from one stream to like save us, you know what I'm saying? Meanwhile, like, we're spending like $250 on YouTube and Instagram ads. So it's like, it's a whole process that is hard. And like, you know, like with all that going on in terms of like the uncertainty of like how your musical career will go, you also have to like find this circle of people that you trust, because like that's what helps you grow as a person, is a community, is other people. What I've learned is collaboration is key, but only with the right people. And that's why this shit takes so long, is because every person you meet initially, it might not be the right person. But this whole process of like going from a guitar player in a band to a producer, now I'm a DJ producer, and like now we're throwing events, and now I'm looking into like design and like kind of technology to incorporate to the events that we're throwing for the products that we're selling, so it can be more immersive, and therefore people will be more interested in the events. And I'm really interested in like bringing something new to the table. You know, like as far as like throwing parties and being a promoter, like just a crab in the bucket, my guy. Like, you just another one. So it's like, how do you differentiate yourself from the crowd? And that, whether that's going to be hard work and consistency, or like a product, or like a movement, or like placement, location, like all these things come into play. And that's why it takes so long to gather. But like, you can't just like give up when you have a bad time. Like, my first event was trash, bro. Like, it went great in the sense that a lot of people came and it was a success, but I made a mistake. And the mistake was that I stopped one side of the party. I was like, hey, yo, everybody's performing inside now. That vibe just got kind of thrown off a bit, but I learned from this lesson. And I mean, bro, I don't know. I feel like my whole life I've been learning the hard way. But it's like no one can take the lesson away from me, because like I'll never go back to the old way of like doing it wrong, right? That's the whole point of like this journey, is like learning. And it's not even necessarily about a destination, right? It's about like the process of growing. And like when you fully immerse yourself in like a specific thing, like whether it's arts or education or accounting or like knitting sweaters, you know what I'm saying? Like, you find these parallels to like just real life. And that's what's so awesome about this shit for me. And I know I'm not the only one. Like, if you really are invested in this shit, like, you can see it shaping like the rest of your life. And like all of a sudden, like a little thing that happened, like when you were making like a beat or whatever, that shit becomes like a life lesson, and you learn from it, and you can cater that lesson to like other things in your life. As I'm growing older, I definitely want to have kids. I definitely want to pursue like a family with my wife. So I'm really like concerned with like time and like how I can manage it and how I can do the most with the least amount of time, so I can like utilize the rest of it to enjoy life. Because that's really like the goal, is to like enjoy life. Like, shit, I want to travel, you know? I want to have like a great life where I can like work remotely, and I can be like in Italy, or I can be in Greece, and all I got to do is send like some shit off of my computer, or work with a studio, whether that be a recording studio or an art studio for physical art. So I'm really interested in pushing myself in the arts and like seeing how I can provide something new to the table. Due to this independent like necessity to be an independent, obviously like I'm learning more of like managerial shit, right, where I'm like delegating things, and there's a lot of like paperwork to be done and a lot of strategizing, and it kind of like takes you away from that music aspect. So what I really am interested in is right now I consider myself as like a leader, or someone to aspire to be a leader, where like I'm making my own decisions with my own company and my own shit. I want to have all my own shit, but like I said, I want to get back to the music. So I really, one day, I want to be a part of a team that creates things together the same way back when I was in a band, right? But in this team, one person tackles the tech, one person tackles the finance, one tackles the entrepreneurship, and I just want to be the music guy. I want to be the creative mindset. I want to, and then, I mean, further down the road, I want to be Rick Rubin producing Magna Carta Holy Grail. I want to sit down, I want to lay down on a couch, and I want to take up the whole space, even though it's meant for two people. I'm gonna lay down on that shit with my feet up, no shoes. My beard's gonna be huge, and my opinion will matter so much that that's all I gotta do. And then I bounce, and then I go meditate. Like, I really just want to have, and like I said, bro, like I'm a fire sign, so I'm extremely, I sweat, you feel me? Like, I get red, I have light skin, so I get red real easily. So I am a fire right now, bro, and I'm trying to maintain this to the point where it's like I am a more quiet person. I am a more, I think before I say. Right now I'm very reactionary, I think, which is something that I'm trying to fix. It's just like a person, if I'm being 100% honest with you. But that's okay, you know what I'm saying? I'm growing, everybody got their issues, right? As long as you're in pursuit of making them a lesson. But I love hip hop. Like, that's primarily what I make, that's what I study. like from a music standpoint, just based on the fact that it came from so many different things. So like when you like start off with hip hop, then like you have like this family tree come down, which is like a reverse family tree almost, but like maybe it's like a tree upside down that goes like that. But you know, from everything that it's sampled to like, you know, the history and culture in the black community and like what you can learn from it, like the perils and like the struggle of like where like this is where like the sound originally comes from, right? And although I'm not a black man, like I still can appreciate like turning a bad situation into a good one, and I really respect that. And I respect hip hop because it has like been through everything, like to the point where like it was not accepted as music. It was not accepted when it was accepted as music. You know, parents wouldn't let you listen to it. It's a direct form of expression, and I appreciate that the same way I appreciate rock and roll, the same way I appreciate soul music. Anything that is a direct outlet of emotions, whether it's pain, struggle, happiness, love, mystery, like, and for me, hip hop really kind of like implements all of that, because the difference sonically, there's many differences, but one in particular between house music and hip hop is that the BPM of hip hop is so broad. It's on everywhere in the spectrum. Can be 60, can be 74, can be 88, can be 94, 96, 98, can be 100, can be 116, 120, can go all the way up to 150, which is just fucking 80. So like I really appreciate the freedom in that, whereas with house music you're kind of like, you have this like structure of like 114 to like 128, and you just kind of stay there, and it kind of has to like mix all together. But I really enjoy the freedom of making hip hop and like being able to make different kinds of hip hop. So what really inspires me, bro, is like seeing people be free based on like their music, like on their art, like to live from what they've created. Like it's really not even about the music for me. It's just about the broad spectrum of creation, and like the fact that like people can like have better lives with just creating, you feel me? Like so yeah, that's what really motivates me, because I love art and I want to use it to make my life and my wife's life, my future children's life, as good as possible. And so as I'm developing like my music and like my career in the arts and as a creative, I'm also shaping myself as a person. And like this shit is like guiding me as I'm looking for the answers. And I mean, one thing in particular, keep it simple, bro. You know, like I've really spent like a year and change on like on projects where like nothing came out of, not even talking about my most recent album with Cold Medina. I'm talking about like projects prior to that where like I was trying to innovate so much to the point where it just got too complicated and it never saw the light of day because it ended up being trash. So you just got to keep it simple and be consistent, make shit happen with your homies, have fun with it, make sure it's fun for your homies. You want to empower the people around you. These people are your powers, you know what I'm saying? The people that you work with, like they have superpowers too. So when y'all come together like the Justice League, like you can save the fucking world. And that's what I'm trying to do with my homies, with Respect the Vibe, with my manager Brute McCoy, with my homie, you know, Medina with Good Problems Collective. He currently lives in California, so we, you know, but we operate so well just because we're so great. Find yourself a business partner that you can trust and you can rely on. So yeah, man, I mean, it's been a hell of a journey, and every time I look back and think about how long it's been, I still feel like I'm just getting started, and I don't like intend to slow down or stop. I'm only now looking at this more as an adult, because like this whole concept of you can't like live off of your creativity is like a lie. It's like fake, especially today's society, bro. Like, you can really be as independent as you want to be, and it all depends on your discipline and like your mentality from a business perspective. And if you're gonna do that though, you have to be artistically minded as well as business minded. And if you're not the artist and the engineer, then you better team up. You know what I'm saying? Because you need those two things to intertwine with each other to make something new. And yeah, I mean, life is beautiful. Music is great. The process is not easy, but it shouldn't be. That's the whole basis of my collective's name, Good Problems, right? It's the struggles that we ask for. So these are lessons that I've learned, things that I continue to tweak as I grow, right? I don't know everything, but I intend to learn as much as I possibly can, remain a student, and just be like surprised at little things, bro. Like, one of my favorite things in life is when I pull up to a parking spot and park, and then the song stops. Like, I love that shit. That is like that other force talking to you, right? And if you just listen to it, that shit'll guide you. Whether you're religious or not, like, there is a force greater than just yourself, and you just gotta work with it. And like, you gotta, sure, it will communicate with you, but you gotta make sure that you are keeping the conversation with that entity as well. Like, it's a double, what is that, a two-way street? Like, you gotta talk to this entity too, right? Like, they're not just gonna do everything for you. I'm not religious personally, but God helps those who help themselves, right? That's the biggest thing I ever learned, like, after Sunday school. And like, I've always been a do-it-yourselfer, like, but you get to a point where it's like important to collaborate with people. So moving back from California, coming back, meeting up with like all these people, like Bug and Brute, and just everybody down here, like, just doing shit, like Trey and like Marla with Basement Presents, like these tiny gear gigs up in Lake Worth, West Palm. Shout out Porn Famous, shout out fucking Respectable Street, shout out all the venues, shout out 26 Degrees out in Pompano Beach. I'm doing like emo nights there now, which is crazy because I never thought I would DJ like emo music, but it's great because like that's where I came from and this is where I'm at now, so it's merging together. So I'm happy to just be able to do different shit at the same time, because I'll get bored if not, without putting too much on my plate. But I love creating. I love being an artistic person. I strive to be that person. I strive to like create and innovate in music, to be an original, and to help others when I can. Like, because I've always looked for help, and I've gotten it from a lot of people. Get yourself a mentor, you know what I'm saying? I'm not the mentor, I'm still learning, but yeah, man, this shit's a process. So more power to you if you are grinding it out. It doesn't get easier until it does, and I'll let you know what that feels like when I get there. So appreciate y'all. Matt Kelly, Good Problems.